Hare Krishna. Today we will speak about fine speech. There is a lot of reference in the Shastra, so we will go through some of it. Like in the Bhagavad Gita purport, Srila Prabhupada says, most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks. For speech is the most important quality of any man. So Srila Prabhupada says, speech is the most important quality of any man. So how important is how we speak? And then Krishna says that one should speak words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and regularly reciting Vedic literature. So when we speak or when we write something, we can check by these points. Are my words truthful? Are my words pleasing or inspiring? Are my words beneficial for those who will hear them? Will those words disturb people? And am I speaking based on the scriptures? So what does it mean to speak based on the scriptures, or to always recite Vedic literature? To recite Vedic literature means to repeat the words of Krishna or of Krishna's devotees, saints and sages throughout the ages. And as Srila Prabhupada said, one should always support what he is saying with the quotes from the scriptures. So one should not speak in such a way as to disturb others, as to disturb their minds. Now, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But if they are not his students, then he has to be careful how he speaks, and he has to speak in such a way as not to agitate their minds. We respect other people's free will, and we try to understand where they are at, what level they are at. And then we try to explain things in such a way that they can understand, that they can relate to it. If we speak about too high philosophy, they will not be interested. And if we speak something that is too familiar and they think they know it, then also this will not be very attractive for them. But if we speak something that will intrigue them, that will stimulate their interest, or even that will challenge them, then those who are sincere seekers, they will be attracted, they will be interested. Then one should not talk nonsense. So what does it mean to speak in spiritual circles? It means to say something that is supported by the scriptures. And Srila Prabhupada showed by his example how he always quoted from the scriptural authority. He quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, from the Upanishads, from Brahma Samhita, from various other literature. There is so many Vedic scriptures, from Mahabharata, Ramayana. And then he said the talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. So of course sometimes when we speak the truth, people may find it disturbing, because we are speaking something that they need to change, or we are speaking about their conceptions or understandings that are not helping them and not helping others. But the way one speaks should be actually, acceptable for people, should be pleasing, pleasurable. And what is accomplished by such discussions, by such speech? Srila Prabhupada said that one can derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. So he started in the storefront of the 22nd Avenue, which I had a privilege and the fortune to visit a few years ago. He started simply by giving classes, not every day. He gave 3 times a week. He gave Bhagavad Gita class, and he started chanting under one tree, which I also visited, in the Tompkins Square Park. And slowly he attracted hippies and others, and they started coming to his classes, and they became devotees. And they learned, they helped Srila Prabhupada also to translate and print his books. So simply by, he elevated human society or parts of human society simply by Krishna conscious discussions, by spiritual discussions. And as we see in the Bhagavad Gita purport, Srila Prabhupada said, there is a limitless stock of Vedic literature and one should study this. So there is so many books that one can study, and you can study what you are attracted by, naturally, something that interests you, and then you can speak based on this. One should speak only of essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. So this is a clear guideline from the purport in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Speak about essentials, and the essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. So what does that mean? It means to speak about devotional service, to speak about Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila of the Lord, so name, form, qualities and pastimes of the Lord, to speak about how to serve the mission, to speak about things that will stimulate people's thinking and that will increase their faith, or at least inspire them to explore this process of self-realization. Then in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, among women, I am fine speech. Now I would recommend fine speech also for men, because today in Kali Yuga, many people speak harshly to each other, and this creates so many relationship problems. Now, Vak is the name of Saraswati, one of the names of Saraswati. Vak is speech personified and the goddess of speech and learning. So we know that Saraswati is also goddess of learning and art. And it is said also that Vak is the goddess of speech and learning, speech personified. And then I have taken out certain things. I think I have like 22 points how to speak. This is taken from Srila Prabhupada's teachings, how to speak. So the speech should be very beautiful, full of metaphorical language, clearly understandable, very pleasing to hear, grave, certain, expressing your personal realization of the absolute truth in order to benefit all who are present. Now this point is so important. When we speak, we express our personal realization not to become famous or because we are proud, our personal realization of the absolute truth, but we do it in order to benefit all who are present. So it should be nicely composed. It should have highly metaphorical and ornamental language. It should be mellow, clearly understandable, without doubt or ambiguity, very enlightening to the heart, very satisfying, lovely, illuminating, like a series of Vedic hymns, very concise, meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words. And meaningful, there is a little explanation, that means composed of selected words, very sweet to hear and appropriate to the situation. So meaningful also, we may say, it means that it means something, it's significant something for the listeners. So composed of selected words, very sweet to hear, appropriate to the situation. Now let us say something about the opposite of fine speech. It's harsh speech. Harshness belongs to those of demoniac nature. This is described in the Bhagavad Gita. Demoniac personalities, they become very angry even over some small things or trifles, and they speak harshly and not gently. So in the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Maitreya is telling Vidura that from Damba and Maya were born greed and Nikriti or cunning. And from their combination, so from greed and Nikriti, children came named Krodha, anger, and Himsa, envy. And from their combination, so that means from Krodha and Himsa, from anger and envy, their children were Kali and his sister Durukti. And Durukti is harsh speech. By the combination of Kali and harsh speech were born children named Mrityu, death, and Biti, fear. And from the combination of Mrityu and Biti came children named Yatana, excessive pain, and Niraya, hell. So these are descriptions from the fourth canto, and we see that all of these qualities or phenomena that we see in our lives actually are personified. They are personalities. The descendants of irreligion and falsity, born one after another, are bluffing, cheating, greed, cunning, anger, envy, quarrel, harsh speech, death, fear, severe pain, and hell. So these are all descendants of irreligion and falsity, and one of them is harsh speech. They are also described as signs of devastation or destruction. And if somebody is pious and he hears about these causes of devastation, he will feel hatred for all these, and that will cause his advancement in a life of piety. So if you hear about this, you become disgusted. We become disgusted about these bad qualities. And what is piety? Piety, maybe people think piety means to pray to God for money, or to pray to God for daily bread, or to light a candle in the church. But Srila Prabhupada says piety refers to the process of cleansing the heart. As recommended by Lord Chaitanya, one has to cleanse the dust from the mirror of the mind, and then advancement on the path of liberation begins. So real piety means chanting the holy name of the Lord, and in this way cleansing the heart from all unwanted things or anarthas. So these are descendants of impious activities, are anger, envy, unpalatable speech, quarrel, fear, and death. Another Sanskrit name, or maybe Bengali name, I'm not sure, Durmukha. Durmukha is the name for one who speaks harshly. So in the time of Lord Chaitanya, there was one Brahmana who was expert in talking harshly and cursing others. He wanted to actually, he cursed Lord Chaitanya. This Brahmana, he was angry. So this was the Brahmana that was not allowed to enter in the hall where the kirtan was performed. The door was closed, and he got very angry. He returned home with an unhappy mind. And then the next day he met Lord Chaitanya and spoke to him. So he was so angry that he broke his sacred thread, his Brahminical thread. And he declared, he said to Lord Chaitanya, "Now I shall curse you, because your behavior has greatly aggrieved me." So he cursed Lord Chaitanya, "You shall be bereft of all material happiness." And when the Lord heard this, he felt great jubilation within himself. So, this curse is so wonderful. You shall be bereft of all material happiness. I mean, how many of us are ready to accept this blessing or this curse? How many devotees are ready to accept this curse, which is actually a blessing? You shall be bereft of all material happiness. So Lord Chaitanya, he felt great jubilation within himself, great jubilation and joy. In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada says that suppose that somebody speaks of me or about me very harshly, and naturally we have a tendency to become angry. So if somebody calls me, "You are a dog," or "You are a hog," how will I react? So if someone is self-realized, if he knows perfectly well that he is not his body, and if somebody calls him a hog, a dog, or a king, or emperor, or your majesty, he is not impressed, he is not depressed. He understands I am not this body. So whether you call me your excellence or your majesty, or you call me a dog or a pig, I don't mind. I am neither this majesty or a dog or a cat, nothing of this sort. I am a servant of Krishna. So one who doesn't identify with the body is not affected by the harsh speech of others. This is the point described here. And now there is one very, very sobering and powerful verse from the 4th canto where Lord Shiva is speaking. Lord Shiva is, as you know, one of the Mahajans. If one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative, for such grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. So if a relative or a close friend hurts us, then it's more painful than when the physical arrow pierces the heart. So we see here that actually Lord Shiva is speaking to his wife Sati, that she would not be able to tolerate unkind words of her father, of Daksha. Because although one can suffer harm from an enemy and not mind so much, because pain inflicted by an enemy is to be expected, is natural, but when one is hurt by the strong words of someone who is very close to us, then it's very painful. And it stays for a long time. One suffers the effects continually, day and night. And sometimes it becomes so intolerable that one wants to commit suicide. So especially with are close friends or close relatives, one should be very careful how one speaks. Then we have heard in the 5th canto of the conversation between Maharaj Rahugana and Jadabharata. And Jadabharata was hiding his real position. So the king could understand how exalted and advanced Jadabharata was in spiritual knowledge after some time. And then he regretted his offenses. He was bitten by the serpent of ignorance, but he was cured by the nectarine words of Jadabharata. And Jadabharata actually gave a vow of silence, but he broke this Mauna Vrata, or vow of silence, because he couldn't tolerate the ignorance of the King Rahugana. So preaching is more important than keeping the vow of silence. Then Durvasa Muni addresses Sudarshan Chakra as the master of speech. So one can pray for the blessings of Sudarshan Chakra so he can speak in a spiritual way. What is the high quality speech? High quality speech is the one that describes the qualities of the Lord. So we will have a few more quotes here and stop and then continue in a second part. We don't want to make this too long. In the Kena Upanishad, it is described Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Mano Yad Vacho Havacham. He, the Lord, is the ear's ear, the mind's mind, and the voice's capacity of speech. So Krishna is voice's capacity of speech. Krishna is giving us the ability to speak. This is the verse from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. A so-called Vaishnava who whimsically neglects the strict control of the body, mind and speech cannot actually achieve shelter at the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. So this is so important. One should rigidly control his mind, speech and bodily activities, always speak the truth and bring the mind and senses under full control. A learned sage should take his satisfaction in the simple maintenance of his existence and should not seek satisfaction to gratifying the material senses. In other words, one should care for the material body in such a way that one's higher knowledge is not destroyed, and so that one's speech and mind are not deviated from self-realization. So we can always ask ourselves, is my speech focused on self-realization? Is my speech in harmony with my efforts to attain self-realization? So thank you for listening. These are some of the points about fine speech or pure speech or spiritual speech. And I hope this was helpful to you. Hare Krishna.